My name is Ryan Provencher. I was born in Pullman, Washington, but grew up in Kirkland, Washington. Currently working in the fire department as the training division chief, health and safety officer, and also the health and fitness coordinator. I was inspired to become a firefighter in high school. I was a high school wrestler, and one of our coaches was a Kirkland firefighter. He was just a really big, strong guy and always talked about the fire department. At that same time, the movie Backdraft had come out, and so firefighters, I just had them on such a pedestal. And I never imagined that that would be something that I could do. I was a volunteer firefighter for about 3 years before I was hired as a professional firefighter, tested all over Western Washington. Back in those days, you'd sign up for a test and there'd be 2,000 other people signed up for it, and there'd be 6 spots available. I can't even begin to estimate how many tests I took before I got hired full time. It was every week going somewhere to take a test. It was really consumed everything I was working towards for 3 years. There were times when I was testing that it felt hopeless. Year after year, to be so close but not quite, or to end up high on the list but not high enough to get hired. The phone call I received from the chief at the time was the greatest phone call that I've ever received. I'm in Recruit Academy as a resident firefighter. He called me up and said, "Hey Ryan, how would you like to be a firefighter for the city of Bellingham?" And I'm like, "Chief, I would love it." I said, "But I'm in academy right now with a different agency as a resident." And he said, "Hey, you finish your academy and there'll be a job waiting for you when you get out." And I was just floating on cloud 9, and I just had this biggest smile on my face, and it made the last 2 weeks of that academy pretty enjoyable. So at that time, 24 years old, I had zero responsibility. I had nothing else going. I was really committed to this job that I loved. A lot of my friends were also firefighters, and we just had a blast. We're traveling everywhere, hanging out together. We worked hard and we played hard, that's for sure. I definitely consumed a lot of alcohol in those days. Sleep deprivation at work was very common, but I certainly did not make that up when I was off shift. I would still play and party and travel, and it was fun. We had a really good time, but looking back on it, that certainly takes its toll.
Here we go. Station 1, round 1. Ready, go.
I met Scott Sonnen in 2007. He walked into fire station number 1 off the street, and then he says to me, "Gosh, the police department, I was just there, they challenged you to a tactical fitness competition." And I wasn't sure what a tactical fitness competition was, but I knew that if the police were challenging us to a competition, we were all in. Come to find out all these years later, he had gone over to the police department and said, "Hey guys, the firefighters, they challenged you to this tactical fitness competition." And the buzz in both departments was so big. There was a competition just to get to the competition. So we all show up and we're going through this crazy fitness competition.
Time, that's it.
Fortunately, the firefighters were victorious, but the prize for winning the competition was a year of TACFIT training with Scott Sonnen, and he was coaching at Bellingham Athletic Club 3 days a week in person. He brought us in there, free training. There was a big group of us, probably 10 of us, that would come in and train with Scott week after week after week. And I was working as a peer fitness trainer at the time, so I had access to all of our fitness testing. Objective data, aerobic capacity, muscular strength and endurance, body composition, and the folks that were participating in this were already high-level athletes, marathon runners, elite cyclists. And I'm looking at these numbers 6 months after training TACFIT. I'm like, how is it that aerobic capacity for a marathon runner is going up? How is it that these objective physical performance measures are improving for some of the most fit firefighters we have in our department? So the proof was in the results. So after a year of training, a few of us really developed a close relationship with Scott. Christian Carson and I, in particular, really took an interest in the TACFIT program. We really started imagining an application for firefighters, and we created our flagship fitness program at the time, TACFIT Firefighter First Alarm. Looking back on it, I think we accomplished what we set out to accomplish. I studied to become a medic around 1999. As a paramedic, you are in situations where you're not able to save someone. I did not do a very good job at that time of dealing with the emotional stress of trauma and tragedy. I became very good at stuffing all of that in a box and compartmentalizing it. It's only now, all these years later, that I'm realizing that that stuff does not just go away. If you bury it, if you try to ignore it, it will come up. The lowest point of my career, I had just had my second hip replacement. At this time, also had been a paramedic for 6 years. I worked as a captain. The job had taken a toll on me at that time, mentally, physically, emotionally. So I had just some of that baggage that kind of came to a head at about that same time. And then I was also going through a divorce at that time. So I'll never forget, I'm literally laying on my living room floor. I don't have furniture. I don't have a couch. I have 6 weeks of growth on my face because I've been off work with this hip surgery. And I'm laying there and I'm thinking to myself, this is my low point. I'd been drinking more than I ever had, certainly depressed, mentally, physically, emotionally broken. And I'm laying there and I'm looking up at the ceiling, and I first of all recognized, for sure for me personally, the low point in my entire life. And I decided right then, like in that moment, this was December of that year, I decided that by June, I will have my shit together. I just decided. I knew that I had the tools to move forward. And a lot of that just comes back to TACFIT and the TACFIT lifestyle. I couldn't do a lot at that time physically, but I could do some joint mobility. That led me into, okay, let's try some of the stretches. Let's get into some of the yoga. It was day by day, week by week, month by month, and by June, I was feeling good. My body felt healthy again. I'd recovered from my surgery. Mentally and emotionally, I was feeling good. I felt more like my old self, and it didn't hurt that now it's summertime, the sun's coming out, and I just had a great summer. June and then beyond, I just really made a full recovery, and things have been great ever since then.
A little less than 3 years ago, after I became a team leader, Brian Provencher reached out to me and we connected, and he just made it known that he had these TACFIT firefighter programs, and he really just was like, I want to make this evolve.
Our goal for TACFIT Firefighter was to create specific and comprehensive physical training for firefighters. There's some good programs out there, but there's not a lot, which is surprising for a group of people that really are occupational athletes.
The system itself is so intelligent, and then the people behind it now are so invested and committed to it.
We put a lot of thought into removing roadblocks. We put a lot of thought into meeting you where you are.
There's so much heart behind it. It was developed by a firefighter, one of the most big-hearted and passionate firefighters I know.
Not only are we going to train you to get stronger and physically fit, we're also going to help you recover, not just from your physical training, but from your occupational training, from the stress of being a firefighter.
It feels like we're just this is the beginning. It's going to be big.
The best part of my life now is my family. I mentioned before that I'd gone through a divorce several years ago, and at that time, I certainly was never going to get married again. I accepted the fact that I would never be a father, and I met a woman who, met my wife, Melody, just an amazing person, to the point where as much as I was committed to never getting married again, I'm like, well, I'd be crazy if I didn't put a ring on her finger. So my wife Mel is just really the rock that anchors our whole family. She supports everything that I do. I have 2 stepsons. Tayson is 16, River is 14, and I'm a father figure to them. I get to feel I feel like a dad. They're my kids, and there's a new chapter, and everything leading up to this has led me to where I am, and I just feel like the stars have aligned. I'm a very lucky man, that's for sure.